Through these eyes, I have come to see that love, in all its beauty and pain, can also be one of Spirit's sharpest teachers. We think deception comes from enemies, from strangers, from those who wish us harm. But sometimes it comes wearing a familiar face. Sometimes it speaks with the voice of the ones we love most. Love is the kind of deception no one warns you about. The kind that both tricks and tests. The kind that exposes the parts of us still convinced that love must behave a certain way. Still convinced that to love we must obey, please, fix, or save. Because before love mixes with fear, it first mixes with our unmet needs, with the places in us that still feel unchosen, the places that feel unseen, unvalued, unprotected. We think we are choosing a person, their smile, their strength, their body, their confidence, their presence. But really, we are choosing a mirror, a reflection of the parts of us we have not yet healed. And when we enter love from that place, from longing instead of wholeness, fear slips in quietly. Fear of losing them, fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned again, fear of being seen too clearly. And once fear enters, illusion grows. But before love ever mixes with fear, something much earlier is already at work. Most of us enter love with pieces of ourselves we never learned to name. The fragile parts, the unfinished parts, the parts still waiting for someone to choose them. The truth is, we cannot name what we were never taught to see. Society trains us to hide our softness, to silence our fear, to cover our longing, to perform strength while quietly unraveling inside. So those fragile parts stay in the shadows, not because we choose it, but because the world told us, do not bring that here. And anything exiled from awareness does not disappear. It becomes unfamiliar, unaddressed, untended. So when those parts finally rise, when they panic or ache or demand, they do not feel like us. They feel like an interruption, an embarrassment, or something caused by someone else. And because we do not recognize them, we assume the fault must lie outside. You made me feel this way. If you loved me, it would not hurt. It is your job to fix this ache, this pain in me. This is the birthplace of entitlement. Not selfishness, but unseen wounds asking for care in the only language they know. We are not broken. We are unintroduced to ourselves. Most of us enter love as strangers to our own inner world, a model of instincts, fears, and inherited stories. And in that confusion, we hand the weight of our healing to the person standing closest. Not because we want to burden them, but because we have never been taught another way. This is the part no one teaches us. We do not get entangled because we are weak. We get entangled because we are unfinished. And every relationship becomes the mirror, showing us the pieces we have not yet brought home. Worry starts calling itself care. Control starts calling itself protection. Constant sacrifice dresses up as devotion. But the truth is this: these are not failures. These are the echoes of the child in us, still trying to earn the love we were never meant to chase. And so love puts on a mask, not because we are unworthy, but because we are still learning how to love ourselves without conditions. Through these eyes, I have watched mothers lose themselves in that forgetting. Fathers too. We try to shield our children from the world, when what we are really shielding is our own hearts from pain. Because most of us are not shielding our children from the world, we are shielding them from the parts of themselves we have avoided in our own lives. We call it love, but often it is avoidance wearing a soft smile. We indulge instead of guiding, saying yes because we are afraid of their disappointment, afraid of tantrums, afraid of being seen as the villain. We rescue instead of teaching, doing their chores, solving their conflicts, fixing their mistakes, because it is faster, quieter, less emotionally messy. We smooth the path when we should let them climb it, rushing to shield them from consequences, shield them from responsibility, shield them from discomfort, forgetting that strength only grows under pressure. And while we keep them safe, we are also keeping them small. We hide the truth that becoming requires friction. And in the silence, their inner weeds grow wild. Entitlement, avoidance, fragility, fear, all choking the very qualities we pray they will one day possess. We do not prepare them for life. We prepare them to crumble. And the enemy within, fear, insecurity, ego, feeds on the softness we mistake for love. And without meaning to, we train them to avoid the very inner work that would make them strong. We treat accountability like attack, honesty like harm, and discipline like rejection. Because somewhere inside, we still fear our own shadows. So instead of helping them to meet their inner battles, we teach them to look away, just like we did. But avoiding the inner war does not end it. It only hands victory to the enemy within. And Spirit, in its relentless mercy, sends reminders, not as punishment, but as correction. Sometimes that reminder comes through the very child we cherish. They grow, they pull away, they rebel, they return. Each cycle peeling back another layer of our attachment, another illusion of control. But the truth is this: when we shield children from every discomfort, we raise adults who cannot bear reality. Adults who believe love should remove all obstacles. Adults who think disagreement is disrespect, that correction is cruelty, and that accountability is abuse. And when life doesn't bend, they break. They lash out, they pound on partners, friends, co-workers, not always with fists, but with demands, entitlement, and emotional violence. Because somewhere along the line, we unintentionally trained them to believe that the world should cater to their wounds instead of teaching them to heal them. We call it love, but often it is coddling, and coddling grows into dependency. Dependency grows into fragility, and fragility grows into harm for them and everyone they touch. They do not know the difference between love and caretaking, between partnership and parenting, between guidance and control, because we didn't show them. Not because we failed, but because we were repeating what we never resolved in ourselves. And the truth stands waiting. We never owned them. Not our children, not our partners, not even the versions of ourselves we once clung to. We were chosen only to steward them, to guide without gripping, to love without binding, to teach without tethering, to release without regret. But here's the part we often miss. What we pass on is rarely wisdom. It is the unfinished version of ourselves. We passed on the fears we never faced, the insecurities we never named, the longings we never understood, the survival patterns we mistook for strength. And because no one taught us another way, we call it love. We hand it down. We repeat the script we inherited. Not because we are careless, but because we are unaware. Everything we give, everything we withhold, everything we demand, everything we excuse, comes from those inner versions of ourselves still waiting to be seen, healed, and brought home. We are not just raising children. We are raising reflections of our own becoming. And whether we realize it or not, the example we set becomes the lesson they live. Through these eyes, I have learned that when love becomes clear, truly clear, it sheds the masks we have been passing down for generations. It stops performing. It stops rescuing. It stops bending itself into shapes to prove its worth. Because real love does not hide. It does not bargain. It does not manipulate, twist, cling, or collapse. It simply is. It prays, it trusts, it releases. Love, freed from deception, no longer fears the cost of truth. Because it knows this sacred fact. What stands in truth cannot be lost, only revealed. And what falls away in truth was never ours to hold. So maybe the question is not, how could they deceive me? Maybe the real question is, what illusion did I ask them to hold for me? What fantasy did I need them to play so I would not have to face my own reflection? Because this is the core of it. The deception did not start with them. It started with the parts of us we never met, never tended, never healed. And love, in its wild intelligence, uses the people closest to us to expose the illusions we still cling to. Through these eyes, I now understand. Some of the most sacred tests arrive through the hands we once held. Not to punish, not to break, but to bring us home to a love that no longer needs masks, no performance, no control. A love that does not disguise itself as fear or sacrifice or rescue. A love that stands naked in truth, unhidden, unafraid, unbound. Just truth, just peace, just light. But sight like this, clarity like this, does not arrive all at once. It comes slowly, quietly, the way dawn enters a room, not by force, but by making everything impossible to ignore. We do not wake into this awareness because we are wise. We wake into it because life keeps putting mirrors in our path, showing us the places where fear was pretending to be love, where longing was pretending to be devotion, where control was pretending to be care. And when we finally stop running from those mirrors, when we stand still long enough to see ourselves without flinching, something shifts. The eyes change. Not the outer ones, the inner ones. The ones that recognize patterns before they repeat. The ones that can tell truth from tenderness and tenderness from fear. The ones that do not fall for the mask anymore in others or in ourselves. This is how clarity comes, bit by bit, truth by truth, mirror by mirror. And that is why this piece carries the name it does. Through these eyes that no longer pretend, eyes that have learned to see beneath the story, eyes that recognize both our wounds and our becoming. Love finally reveals itself. Not the love we performed, not the love we inherited, not the love we begged for or chased, but the love that remains when the illusions fall away. That is the sight that frees us. That is the sight that heals us. That is the sight that brings us home to a love unmasked, untangled, and finally true. Through these eyes, we return to ourselves.